Stupid, I am a guy. I don't need to do it.
To wait until I will come to USA because I need to feel I trust you.
If you're gonna get marry him, don't think you have to change your religion to be a Muslim.
You want to play me off for a freaking fool, invite me all the way over here? You're going to be nothing now but a...
Niles doesn't know it yet, but we need money from him.
In this latest episode of B90, Matilda is proving a lot of people right. Niles is sweating bullets as Matilda dumps on him that she wants to invite people from villages near and far for their knocking ceremony on his dime. We also meet a new couple, Magda and Joe, who are overflowing with red flags, and they are rushing to the altar, or are they? Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. Yes, a new location has dropped on this channel. We are in a separate area from my room. There's a lot happening outside of my window, so whenever you guys see that I'm in a new location, it's because my lovely location with my frames is overpopulated with sound. We may still get some sounds from my neighbors, we may still get some sounds from outside, but not as much. I'm gonna try to muffle it. Bear with me. But yeah, do you guys like my wall? I love this. I have like a full body mirror here, and this is where like I take my outfit of the day pictures. But I got a bunch of these like, I don't know what they're called, but like, you know, squares of flowers. I got them from Shein. So I got like 12. And I tied them up in the back and then I nailed it. I don't recommend that you nail it, just tack them in, because I just know when I eventually move out of here, I'm gonna have to do some serious work on these walls. So if you're gonna do something like this, definitely tack them. But anyway, you're not here for my decor, you are here for the 90-day fiance mess, and we're gonna get straight into it. As always, before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And you guys, we're gonna start with Rayne and Chidi because again, I was not expecting to see them. I thought we were done with them, but clearly these two are masochists for rejection, masochists for humiliation. Like there's just no other reason as to why they would be meeting up. We see Rayne and Girly is packing up her bags and she's just like, you know, I changed my flight because I just can't take being here. But apparently she texted Chidi letting him know that she was leaving and he was like, let me go stop by and see you. So she's like, oh, now he wants to show up? Oh, okay. But Rayne is one of those people that like, she's always gonna make the other person the villain in her story. There's no sense of like accountability, no self-awareness. We've heard how she talks about her exes, and now Chidi is just another guy on the list, another guy that's disappointed her, and her story with Chidi is that he used her. We have seen many people use other people on this show. If Chidi was using her for a visa, he would have been a lot more tactful. He would have definitely slept with her. There would have been things done that would have been obvious to us. I think the most that he can be accused of using her is being on the show, because obviously being on the show brings up opportunities. But given all the information that has come out behind the scenes, it looks like they had already broken up before the show, and then Rayne needed him for the show and reached out to him. So who's using who? They're both obviously benefiting from the show, but like, you led the charge, babes. But anyway, Chidi shows up. His sister's obviously accompanying him, which I, was shooketh because I'm like, this woman is gonna see you and she's going to go crazy. But no, Victoria dropped him off. She made sure he was settled and then she stepped away. I will say though, Victoria was cracking me up when she was like, this was not the ideal situation. I didn't want her to feel this way. But honestly, I am relieved that she's leaving. And if I were Chidi's sister, I too would be relieved. Like, oh my God, this lady was gonna take my brother and do God knows what with him. So like, I get it. Then this woman comes and Chidi is trying to butter her up, okay? She's, they're calling each other babe. They're being cute, but there's like a lot, of tension, not in a good way. Chidi's like, I brought you something. He brings out, I guess, like souvenirs. This set everything just off the rails. Because one, if this trip was so terrible for her, why would she want a memento from it, Also, I think that it would represent the fact that you guys didn't get to explore as much. If you guys would have explored more, she would have been able to get these gifts for herself. In any other setting, I would be like, oh my God, yeah, totally. So Renee's looking at these gifts and she's like, sure, like, thanks for these gifts, even though I wasted 5 years of my life and you don't want to spend time with me. And you could see the smile like leave Chidi's face. Because she's harping on this thing that like they didn't have quality time. And it can be argued, but I really do think that they did have quality time. I just don't think that she's recognizing that she wants to bulldoze through his boundaries. He didn't want to have alone time in a hotel with you. You guys had alone time in his sister's house, but she wanted alone time in a hotel because she wanted his body and he didn't want to give that to her. And so every time she's like, you think that I don't have control of myself, then why do you want separate alone time? So that's why I just don't feel bad for her. If anything, I'm like, girl, like, this is embarrassing for you. I think though that the only thing Chidi is guilty of is possibly leading her on. This is a conversation that should have been had before. Your boundaries should be respected, but if you guys have had this sort of relationship where you have sent some spicy texts, then you have to make it clear that that kind of energy isn't going to be given when she's there in person. I totally get her confusion with that. I don't understand her anger with that. And so he's trying to, like, pacify the situation and explain it to her, and she keeps cutting him off and getting ramped up. And at one point she's like, you're an evil person. I don't know why you treated me this way. And I'm just stunned because I don't think Chidi treated her badly. She's acting like he did some monstrosity when all that he said was, I don't want to be intimate with you. She could have honestly left the first time he said it. She could have. That was an opportunity. But she decided to stay and thought that she was going to be able to make him change his mind. And that is icky. So they're having this back and forth. And Chidi, at this point, Chidi is done being nice. And he's like, listen, I was only ever happy with you when we first started. And then afterwards, I heard that and I was like, oh, damn, Chidi. Like, she's said some horrible things for sure, but like, you don't want to go high? No, you want to get as low as her? Okay. I mean, okay, right? I get that. The petty part of me gets that, right? But she's like, wow, so you were only happy with me in the beginning, then why did you say you want to marry me? But then it goes all the way left because she's like, you're a little bitch. And she tells him to shut his mouth. And honestly, she was this close to a racial slur. I felt it. She wanted to say it so bad. And eventually she just like storms off. And you guys, like, I understand that some people believe in closure. I don't think closure is for everybody. I think that if you know that you're dealing with a hostile person, you're going to have to do your own self-work and do your own closure ceremony in your home. With people like Renee, there's never going to be closure because there's always going to be a push and pull because she doesn't feel like she did anything wrong. She feels like she's been done wrong by you. So I just think that this whole conversation was unnecessary. It had to have been producer driven because I just don't see how they thought that it would end differently. So we see her crying, packing up her stuff. We see Chidi, being consoled by his sister, and he doubles down. He's like, honestly, like, I haven't been happy with her since the beginning, and I think that I held on longer because I loved that she accepted me. And that's a real vulnerable thing to share and also honest. And I think that it could be said that Renee felt the same thing, and she said it a few times, that she loved that he was blind because she has all these insecurities. I'm afraid to say that this is the last time that we're going to see them because at this point, they keep bringing them back. They're going to keep probably bringing them back, except in the reunion. I don't know. But that's it with them. Let's move on to the next couple. We're going to move on to Veah and Sunny. These two are just trying to dance around the fact that they've had a rough, 48 hours, and Chidi's going to take her to meet his friends at a cricket game. Veah is nervous, of course. When they arrive, we see his friends, and Sunny mentions that they're all Muslim, and then I immediately rolled my eyes, took a deep breath, because I'm like, oh, I hate this storyline. It's with Tigerlily and Adnan as well. This whole like women going into shit blindly with Muslim men and Muslim men going out of their way to choose women that are completely different from their culture and then wanting to change them. It's so annoying. But I like panicked when he was like, yeah, all my friends are Muslim. And then they pan to Veah and she's wearing a crop top. She has all these tattoos. And his friend Ali, who we've met before, who is not a fan of this relationship, immediately like had something to say. So after the game is over, Sunny and Ali are talking. Veah hops in and she's like, hi. And Ali's like, so you're going to meet his family, right? Are you going to cover up? Which Veah didn't like because she's like, why are you in my business? But she's like, yeah, I may cover up. I want to be respectful, but like, I want to be me kind of thing, you know? And so Sunny's like, yeah, I'll teach her a little bit about my culture and stuff. But Ali's like, yeah, but if you guys are talking marriage, she knows that she has to become Muslim, right? You know you have to change your religion, right? And Veah's like, Sunny has never said that, and to be honest, I'm not interested in being Muslim. As this conversation is happening, Sunny is looking at the floor, he's not making eye contact, and he just looks guilty because he definitely wants her to be Muslim, and I think that he's trying to pull one of those things when they're in too deep, and he's like, yeah, so if you love me, then you're gonna have to change. And it's so messed up, Like, how are you with someone for a year? You want to track their location and you don't mention not once that it's an expectation for her to share your same religion. And he gives some like BS response of like he wants them to focus on themselves, like their relationship first before they talk about that. But I think that's idiotic. I think that if that's an expectation, you need to tell someone from the start what they're signing up for. Otherwise, I think that this is manipulative AF because you know that it's harder to quit someone when you're invested, when you feel like you've put time in, when you feel like you've talked out these plans. It's messy, and it can be messy either way, right? Like it can be messy that she'll lose herself, or it can be messy that he's gonna get rejected and then hate all women because he lied. But as they're talking about this, Veah is like, part of the reason why I'm not interested in becoming Muslim is because, women can't go outside. And Ali's like, yeah, women can go outside. It's just a matter of trust, which again, I feel like they like to remix the laws. Same thing with Adnan&Tigerlily, which we'll get to, but like they love to remix the truth. Well, Ali's like, yeah, it's all about trust. Sunny, do you trust her? Again, Sunny's not making any eye contact, and he's like, well, we have a little issue. And he brings up to his friend in front of Veah that she came here with her ex. And it's a problem. It's a problem. I know that some of us share different feelings about the whole Rory situation. And I personally am not about it. I think that she could have brought anyone else. We've discussed this. I just don't... I'm not a fan of triangulating people. I'm not a fan of bringing everyone and their mother into our business. You and Veah have yet to process this Rory thing, so you shouldn't be bringing other people into the mix. You guys need to think about it yourselves. Get everything out first before you can discuss. Because if you guys haven't done that, you're not going to be a united front. So this is just all types of messed up. Obviously, Sunny's going to tell his best friend what's going on. That's not the problem. I just find it icky that like he's just doing it like that in front of Veah because Veah doesn't know this man. So this is an uncomfortable situation. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So Ali's like, immediately no. But Sunny, have you met Rory? Like, have you like gotten, things in order? Have you basically asserted that you're the man? And Sunny's like, no, I'm not ready to do that. So right in front of Veah, Ali's like, yeah, you guys have a lot to fix. I don't know about this. Whatever, right? They walk off. Veah is leaving this cricket game feeling super misunderstood. She feels like Ali was out of line for giving his input. Again, she asks Sunny, like, is that what you want for me to convert? And Sunny's like, no, we'll talk about it later. BS. It's just so hypocritical, right? Because Sunny is gonna want her to conform and do all these things, right? But he benefits plenty from the fact that she's not a Muslim girl. Because next scene is of them being straddled up in a pool. She's in this sexy bikini. They go back to the room and they finally, have a moment in the shower together, this time in person. So it's just so funny. The fact that he wants her to do one thing, but he is thriving and doing all these other things that he wouldn't dream of doing with a Muslim girl, and on camera at that. Anyway, next week it looks like they are going to meet up with Rory and it's gonna get heated. I'm looking forward to that. Let's move on to the next couple. We're gonna move on to Tigerlily and Adnan. So it's like their first official day in Turkey, and these two are just ignoring all their issues because they desperately want to have a baby, and apparently they've been trying, and I just feel like, Tigerlily, who needs a baby when you're married to one? That's just me. Anyway, he takes her to this like bazaar, which I love. It's like a huge ass market. It's perfect for Tigerlily because she's a shopaholic. However, I understand that bargaining is like totally normal in many places, and I just know that if I were to be a salesperson and I were to see someone in an expensive coat, expensive shoes, expensive glasses, just giving luxury vibes, and these crusties are trying to bargain with me, and this is the only way I'm going to feed my family, I'm going to be pissed. I just thought it was in such poor taste of Adnan, personally. But anyway, the problems start to creep in because, again, they're in these big-ass coats, and they're in this bazaar. So Tigerlily's uncomfortable. She's hot. Her feet hurt because of the stiletto heels, and she's walking on cobblestone. It's just a mess. So she begins to take off her coat, and Adnan is like, no, not here. And she's like, I'm burning up. And he's like, yeah, so what? So she's like, wait, so now I can't take off my coat when I want? And he's like, yeah, you can, just this is not a good place. And she's like, okay, so what is a good place? And he won't give her a straight answer. And in the confessional, he says something like, I'm the man, so I know best. And it's just such BS. Like everything he says lacks substance. He's just like a parrot. He repeats what he hears, but like he can't give you a reason as to why. All of it is just annoying, and it's like a repetitive issue. And Tigerlily is now annoyed and hot and just like looking for an entire outfit at this bazaar. She doesn't end up doing it because they have to race to their second date, which is at a boat. Did you guys see the way Adnan interfered from like the boat guy? There's like a gap between the boat and the dock, and he reached out to help Tigerlily, and Adnan was like, no, and then like struggled to get on himself and then get Tigerlily. It was just so stupid. It just feels like a pissing contest at every turn, and for what? The only thing that was cracking me up though is that Tigerlily is wearing this bodycon dress, and it's a long one, so it like restricts your step. And then she has these heels and her feet are numb, and she just like, I don't know how she got on that boat, honestly. But finally she is sat, and she's like, so your religion and the way that it's ruining my life. She doesn't say it like that, but they hear like a call for prayer, which sounds lovely. But she's like, okay, so I don't really know a lot about your religion, because she hasn't researched and he's a liar, right? But she's like, listen, I need to know a little more about the expectations for, clothing. And so this man, because he doesn't want to have this conversation, is like, oh, well, you can wear whatever you want. And she's like, that's not true. And you know that. Every time I wear something, there's a problem. And he's like, it's easy. Like, it's fine. Like, it's easy. And it's like, it's not easy. She wasn't born into this. You're not helping her. Answer the question. It's just so frustrating, because you would think that someone that is so dead in his ways would come with actual examples so that it is crystal clear for his bride. Because after all, he pursued her. He knew what she looked like. He knew how she presented herself in the world. She knew all of those things. And so he's like, well, you knew all this when you married me. She's like, no, I actually didn't. And I am confused by it. And I blame both of them for this confusion. But I also feel like if it is so important for you that she upholds this, you need to guide her through this. But he wants to do zero work. They touch on the medical thing, and he's like, yeah, like, I understand if you need to have, medical care for men, but a chiro is not a doctor. And she's like, yes, it is. And he's like, no, I'm not okay with male chiro touching you all over 3 times a week, and I don't even get that. Men like this scare me because they're the type to be jealous of the baby when you've literally popped it out. You know the type. And so Tigerlily is just frustrated at this point because she's like, I just want you to acknowledge that I have made so many changes. And she probably has, but I think that he's constantly moving the goalpost. So he's just never going to be satisfied until she morphs into who he wants, except he won't tell her who he wants up front. So she's always guessing. And that I don't wish on anyone. She must feel so uneasy at all times. And I just think that's like the worst feeling in a relationship. And I would hate to have that in a marriage. Like, this is the one place that you're supposed to be solid, and he just can't give that to her because he's a liar. Then they touch on the whole bathing suit topic. And we've heard this one before with Mahmoud and freaking Nicole. And at this point, Tigerlily's like, look, I need this to be equal. Second, if I have to cover up and wear a scuba instructor outfit, you need to wear a shirt. And he tells her that she has a small brain. And at this point, she's offended. And I'm happy. I'm like, yes, Tigerlily, get mad. Get mad. Because this man is calling you stupid because you weren't born into this. And she's talking to him like, this is not okay that you're talking to me like that. And he looks like a teen that's being reprimanded. He's just like, okay. She clocks that he's agreeing like passive aggressively. And he says no, that he's agreeing for real. But then they pan to his confessional and he's like, yeah, I'm agreeing because I want her basically to shut up. Like, I want this conversation to be over. I'm going to do what I want. I don't have to wear a shirt because I'm a man. I can't wait for Adnan and Tigerlily to not be on our screen because this is just, I just don't know what's keeping them together except the need for clout because it's not sustainable. And I think it's going to get real murky when he comes to America and deals with her kids. Like, it's going to be murky. I am also just fearful of a man that never apologizes or only apologizes because he has something to gain. It's just real sinister energy. I'm not a fan. Anyway, let's move on to Niles and Matilda. I want these two to work so bad, but I just feel like, Matilda is applying the pressure and Niles he's about to just blow the lid off this pot. Like, he is panicking, okay? So when we see them, it's the day after, they met her family, he got the approval, and so they're on a high. Matilda really wants him to spend time with her family because I think that she believes that they still have doubts even though they agreed, particularly her mom. Like, her mom was like, you sure that he's gonna come back for you? And she's like, yeah, he wouldn't disgrace me. Niles in turn is affirming Matilda that he's definitely gonna come back for her. We see them 2 hours later visiting her family home because when he asked for the approval for the knocking, they didn't even go in. So this is now the opportunity for him to tour the house as like a welcomed guest. So you can tell that this home was like either recently built or it has been built in parts. I know so because that's how it is in DR. Like, houses are expensive. Sometimes you can afford to build it, but you can't afford to paint it. Or sometimes you can afford to like set up the structure, but you still have to build out the inside room per room. It's just what happens in third world countries or in just like villages that just need a little more help. And we know that Matilda comes from really humble beginnings. And so this is a huge home and it's for a lot of her family, but it obviously needs work. But I feel like we've seen worse. You know what I mean? Niles, though, I don't think he's ever left America. So he's looking around, you know, the way that they're cooking, the way that the bedrooms are. And he's like, no person should live like this. And Matilda is obviously hurt by this because she grew up here. And he did say at one point that it looks like a prison. And Matilda's like, is this your autism? Because this is rude. There's a moment that Niles goes off with her brother to get like an internet card, I think. And then we see Matilda talk to her sister. And Matilda's sister's like, so what is this about you guys moving the wedding after the knocking? And Matilda's like, yeah, you know, he's gonna come back. And, you know. And so as Matilda's saying this, the sister's like, so why didn't you force him to just get married right away? And I can see why Matilda's the way she is, which I love it. A strong woman, knows what she wants. I just think that if you're going to be bulldozing through a plan, you got to be crystal clear. And we learned in this conversation that she hasn't been crystal clear about the financial expectations. Obviously, her family, you know, isn't well off. And to host a knocking ceremony, you know, part of the ceremony is to have, you know, food. And the sister's like, oh, so it's going to be for the family. And Matilda's like, no, well, because the wedding is delayed, I want more people to come to the knocking ceremony so that they know that this is real. So she wants to go big. And they're talking $250 about. So in retrospect, to feed 90 people, $250 is not bad. However, Niles was not counting on that number, and we'll hear more about that later. But the point is, Matilda wants to go big or go home. I think this is her way of being like, I want to prove to everyone that like he's gonna give me a good life and that he is gonna come back for me, and kind of like a way to like leave them on a high so that in those few months while they wait for him to come back, they have something to hold on to. But Matilda girl is dreaming big. And it's hard, right? Because I think that a lot of people before they move to America, they think that money just comes so easily to Americans. And while I do agree that there's a lot more opportunity here, you still have to bust your behind and for very little pay. So I don't want to crush her for being a dreamer, but I just think that her perspective on how money is accessed in America is warping her reality and therefore warping her expectations for Niles. Because the next time that we see them, you know, he's selling plantains with her and she quickly pivots the conversation to the knocking ceremony. She first addresses the whole communication situation. She's like, listen, when you said that my house was a prison, like that really hurt me. And you could see Niles panicking because he's like, oh, like this is always a problem. But he doesn't apologize. And I'm like, Niles, if you have the self-awareness to realize when you are being direct and when you are masking, you should be able to also come up with, I need to apologize. Just let me know if I'm asking for too much in that. Maybe I'm all the way off. I just felt like Matilda deserved an apology for that because she did open the doors to her home to him. And that was a rude thing to say. But that aside, she's like, listen, I love your directness with me. If my family would have heard you, if my mom would have heard you, that would have really hurt her. So I ask that you keep it toned down for them and let me know your unfiltered thoughts. And he felt seen by that, and he felt good that she was like making it clear how she would like to be loved. You could see that he respected that, and she feels closer to him. But also, she's like, I need to get closer to your wallet. So she basically tells him that, like, you know, she's going to need money from him to give to her sister because her sister's the one that's doing all the, you know, cooking, the catering for this event. And she tells him how many people, and he's like, babe, I didn't budget for this because I thought, and I think that's what Matilda had told him before, that it would just be the family. And so he thought, okay, there's like 20 people in your family and my family is not going to be in the mix. So that's a good amount. He thought that his costs would be in half. But now I feel like they've tripled. She tells him that she wants to invite her friends, her classmates, her mom's friends, like so-and-so from this village, so-and-so from that village. Like it's a whole event. And she tells him like we have to do it and we can't lower the list because it would be a disgrace. And like they're expecting a wedding and we've already delayed the wedding. And that's how I know that none of these plans were discussed because Niles is obviously not a reliable character in this story, but also Matilda likes to sprinkle a little bit and then tell you the rest of the plan later. So this can turn into a mess real fast. He's like, I didn't budget for 90 people, so we'll have to see. And she's like, no, I don't know about we'll have to see. We have to give her the money. Like, we can't give her the money later. We need to give her the money now. Because apparently the knocking ceremony is that Saturday. So it's like a few days away. And again, I think tradition is important. It's obvious that it's important to Matilda, but if it's important, you should have been discussing dollar amounts, especially if the money is coming from him. Because this whole time, I thought that her family was putting in the money for certain things, but from what it sounds like, they were waiting for him to arrive so that he can put the money. So I'm like, okay, does he have to pay for the chairs, for the tents, like all these things that you're asking for? Has he sent the money in advance? Like, I'm panicking for everybody, but especially Niles. He's just like, what am I gonna do? And this is like not even their biggest problem because the next scene that we see is of them meeting up with her brothers and they're like, yeah, so your family, they're gonna be here, right? And Niles is like, no, they're not. And they're like, well, they need to be present because, like, it's a ceremony between your family and our family. And Matilda's like, oh, well, you know, the time difference. And the brother's like, they can Zoom. So what Niles says in the confessional is that Matilda is aware that his family doesn't approve of them. But she's kind of like, talk it out with them because they need to be present, make them wake up. So all of this leads me to believe that he hasn't been as honest to the fact that like they didn't even want him to go to this trip. And it would just be so heartbreaking if he like leaves her at the knocking or something like that. Like I don't know. But the point is that they need someone to rep him, and it sounds like he's gonna get someone, or he's gonna try to get someone that he knows, an elder in Ghana. But that looks like it's gonna go bad in the teaser, because they're going to want the knocking and the wedding, and he can't do the wedding anytime soon. I don't know. I really like them, but I feel like these real life factors are creeping in between culture, between money, between him not being able to like think straight and be honest about what's actually happening. Oof. I really need to know your thoughts on this, you guys, because I'm torn. And I don't want to demonize Matilda for wanting better for herself. I just wish that she would be a little more empathetic to the fact that she's asking for a lot, even though it's valid requests. The execution is not the best, and I just feel like he wants to run for the hills. But anyway, let's move on to the last couple. It's the brand new couple, which leads me to believe they're not going to last long, because why else would they be introduced in freaking episode 11? But it's Magda and Joe. When we meet Joe, he has this huge Italian family. He looks like the eternal bachelor, party animal, used to having lots of girlfriends. His family's dying for him to settle down. And he's attempting to with this woman that he met over FaceTime like 5 months ago. Her name is Magda. She's from Poland. So right now it's very much a physical attraction, but they haven't spent physical time together yet, so this trip is major. Anyway, he talks to his family about his situation, and it's immediately just red flag after red flag after red flag, and he can't see them because she's just so hot that he's blinded by all of it. Apparently, this girl quit her job because she's determined to be available and open to move to America, stat with him, and immediately have his babies. They've never met before. It's been 2 minutes, so another Tigerlily non. This man looks like he brags about his money. He does really well in real estate. You know, he has a nice car. He has that aura, and she saw it and she reeled him in because she's a hottie, right? The family's like, this is alarming. You may want to take it slow. Like, it sounds like she may want to trap you. They're trying to be supportive because they also want him to settle down. And so they're like, so the red flags are glaring. So make sure that she wants to come to America for you and not just for America. But we get a little more intel on their relationship when we see him at a pool party with some friends. And we learn that, they've been dating for 5 months, but they didn't determine whether they were exclusive or not. So when Magda found out that he had sex with someone 2 months ago, she flipped out because apparently she's been exclusively just with him this whole time. He's like, oh, like we didn't discuss, right? So now they're at the place where he has to share his location. I know a lot of people share locations for many different things, but I will be damned if I share my location with someone that I've never met before. That sounds dangerous. All that aside, this whole like we were exclusive, we weren't situation, I don't know if it's because of her age, but he's old enough to know better. There has to be a clear conversation when you're taking the next step. And I feel like he didn't have that conversation because it was beneficial for him not to have the conversation. He could have his cake and eat it too if there's no clear, distinct moment where they're official. So he didn't have it. Always expect the conversation. Never assume where you stand with someone. I do not like gray areas. Also, out of curiosity, you guys, how long would you wait before defining the relationship? For me, it's 3 months. After 3 months, if you're not already like obsessed with me and want to lock it in, I don't know why we're here, because I didn't sign up for a pen pal. I didn't ask for friends with benefits. I didn't ask for another friend. I have plenty of friends. But anyway, he's telling his friend's situation that she's tracking his location, and they're like, that sounds crazy. That sounds possessive. Also, you are a bit of a hornball, so I honestly don't see this working. And also, one of the girlies that's in the pool is apparently his ex-girlfriend. They dated for a year, like 7 years ago. But she's obviously in his inner circle, and Magda does not know this. Magda is 23. This is going to be a big deal. Honestly, I think it would be a big deal for me at 33. Not that they're friends, but the fact that he hasn't told me. Don't have me walking into a room where everyone knows something about you and I don't. I don't like to be in the dark. Magda, though, already has trust issues. She already thinks you're sleeping with people, which you have. But if I were Magda and just thinking about myself at 23, I would be like, oh my God, you guys are still hooking up. I just know. So that conversation inevitably will not go well. The next scene that we see is of him, like, I guess like at a drugstore buying last minute things. And he's FaceTiming with Magda. She's pulling a Jasmine where they have to FaceTime almost at all times because she doesn't trust him. She needs to track him. She needs to see who he's talking to. And he like casually is like, oh, should I pick up condoms? And she's like, no, you don't have to. And he's like, oh, you have some? And she's like, no, I don't want to have sex. And also, honestly, I just don't want to have sex at all until I'm in America. As a man, get the condoms. It's better to always be safe and sorry. Girlies, have condoms in your purse if you're going to be going out with people. Better to be prepared. Okay? Also, if the girl doesn't want to be intimate with you, you don't have to be intimate. But her audacious request that it's not going to happen until she's in America, meaning you need to get me to America, she has some big cojones to make such a request. And again, just like I've said about Matilda, I'm not going to knock a girl for wanting better for herself. However, she's being clear about wanting to come to America, but she's not being clear about her intentions as to why. So she keeps masking it, being like, oh, well, I need to trust you. Okay, well, then if you need to trust him, then you shouldn't come to America right away, right? If you need to trust him, you need more time to figure out your relationship before you just come here. But you saying that you need more time, but also you're racing to get a visa, racing to get his money, racing to have his baby only once you're there, it's giving fishy. And her saying that she's not gonna be physical and he's the eternal bachelor, that put the fear of God in him on top of her controlling nature. So he's in the car and he's like, I think I'm regretting this a little bit. Pan to the final scene where the producers, you see them all just like waiting for him to come out and he won't. And it's been hours. And it's like getting to the point where it's 3 hours before his flight. It's an international flight. If you're not there already at the airport, you're gonna miss it. So the producer keeps knocking, they keep calling, and he won't answer. And that's where they leave off. What do you guys think happened? I think he'll make it to Poland, personally. I think that this is a fake out. But it'll probably be one of those things where he like has like cold feet and maybe has to fly the next day. Something happened because, yeah, something had to have happened. I can't wait to find out, but I really don't foresee them lasting given that they were introduced mid-season. So I would love to know all your thoughts on this. Please let me know. It's just so much happening. Next week we get Brian and Ingrid back, and there's like a clip of Ingrid being like, listen, I'm all for being with you, but I'm not trying to be your homemade. Then there's also the Lauren telling Faith he wants to marry her mom. Amongst so much. Oh, we finally get Vanya talking to Bozo's friends. So it's just delicious. Delicious mess. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.